Hello and welcome to PACTV Community News. We are excited to have Tiffany Phillips, our Administrative and Outreach Assistant, filling in for Julie this week. Thanks, Tiff. Tonight, we'll take you to a fun community bowling club in Kingston and a family-style dinner in Pembroke.
We visit Duxbury High School's drama club as they headed to Boston for the state finals. And we travel with a Pembroke student as they wade through the Credit for Life program.
We meet some of the artists of tape art at Silver Lake High School, and we get an update on the Mosaic project at Duxbury's Art Complex Museum.
And we have a special guest on to discuss wedding tips as we head into the heavy wedding season.
It's going to be a great show, and we begin with a bit of drama. PCN visited with some of the hardest working kids in drama, Duxbury's High School Drama Club. Their youth-led production of Macbeth made it all the way to the state finals in Boston. We were lucky enough to visit one of their final dress rehearsals.
So the show is pretty linear as to the original cutting of the show. It's basically about Macbeth, who is a decorated general, and they come upon some witches who tell them a prophecy in which Macbeth will become king. And of course, Lady Macbeth hears that news and convinces Macbeth to kill the king in order to assume that position. And it all kind of spirals into a chain reaction of more blood, more greed, and vicious ambition. So eventually that leads to Macbeth's own death. Blood will have blood is one of the lines.
But we do employ several very important twists. For example, we casted the show gender blind, so that's why I have a wife instead of a husband. The directors decided that if somebody was fit for the role, that they would receive it. We changed the pronouns to match up with the identity of the actors. So for example, Macbeth is my wife, Macduff is a woman, but characters like Angus still stay male.
It's kind of difficult because when everyone hears Macbeth, obviously they think of a man, so we have to work to challenge what their preconceived ideas are going to be, and obviously still portray the same power and blood and gore that's in the original script. So it's been a little challenging to try to push myself. I'm also not the most loud, vicious person, at least I don't think so. So kind of putting on this whole new persona and putting myself in this mindset that's completely different from what I'm used to is kind of crazy and wasn't the easiest thing to settle into, but once I'm there, it's just it's a different person. It's unreal.
We also chose to set it in a post-apocalyptic setting, sort of a fresh take on a very old story.
It's kind of a reflection of more modern times, more modern struggles, and yet the plot doesn't change, so it's kind of more relevant that you can relate to this show that's been around for hundreds of years when you're putting it into a futuristic setting.
I talked to Darren about the possibility of me directing this show about a year ago at this point, and he was all on board, and from there he just sort of let me run with sort of whatever ideas I wanted to do, whatever I wanted to kind of consider. He let me just kind of do my thing, and now we're here.
I always enjoy the last fight scene just because it came such a long way, and just knowing that it started from this very awkward, very slow, weird movement with some sticks to the intense, bloody battle that it is now. It's just one of the things I'm most proud about this performance.
At first it was a little challenging with the tempo and how quickly we had to go, because sometimes we'd go too slow and sometimes we'd go too fast. So that was kind of tricky to get everyone going at the same pace. But we had a professional choreographer come in and help us with the fight sequences. So that was a lot of fun, and we all helped each other out to learn them.
I really love the dagger scene. Obviously, it's a very famous scene, but just that moment of, I feel like the audience shares it, where you're not really sure if this thing that Macbeth is seeing is real or not, so the audience gets to share that wonder and confusion and and a moment of insanity where you're wondering what's going on and what it all means, and that's kind of the tipping point that leads the first murder to be done.
I really like the parts that are mostly silent, and there's just kind of these like very intense stares, or just, yeah, the silence to me is the best part because it's very intense.
Most of the shows that we've done so far, it's pretty much just like for people in Duxbury, by people in Duxbury, but this is kind of like higher stakes because it's like you're performing for other theater people, for other schools and everything.
And the language obviously presents a challenge in the fact that this is for a state competition, which has a lot more rules than just a regular show would. There's a time limit, there's all sorts of other regulations, so I think it's definitely more challenging in that respect, but that makes it a lot more fun.
A lot of our usual stage crew are actually actors in this show, so we've actually had to put up this set, which we have a 5-minute time limit for, in costume and in character after we've all warmed up and after we've gotten in the mindset. So it's been kind of difficult because you're the character and you're the actor, but you're also doing all the tech stuff. So it's almost like they meld together a little bit, and it's hard to keep yourself focused. And I think that that's something that we can all be really proud of ourselves for being able to do.
For many years, bowling leagues have been a way for people of all ages to connect with friends in a fun, competitive setting. PCN met up with members of the Senior Bowling League at Alley Cat Lanes in Kingston to tell us about how their league gives them a feeling of community.
We bowl here with the Senior League every Tuesday, my wife and I. And we enjoy coming to Alley Cat. The owners here are real nice people. All the employees are very nice people. And we were just happy to be here.
I used to bowl years ago when they first started. And then one of the girls, Betty, that I work with, she talked me to come back again. So I came back and I just subbed, and then this team adopted me.
The teams are only 4 people, so you don't have a lot of recruiting to do. And if you can even get 3, they'll take you.
My favorite part about bowling is getting strikes. In the athletic field, like Red Sox, 3 strikes and you're out. In the Alley Cat, 3 strikes and you're in. So thank you.
It's just pure fun. Nobody's ultra competitive. We clap for everybody when something good happens and commiserate when it doesn't.
We aren't good bowlers, as you'll notice most of us aren't. And it's a challenge to yourself to do better.
We always looking around us to see who's doing well and cheer for them. You get to know a lot of different people from other towns that you wouldn't probably normally ever meet up with.
I've seen them around, but I don't know them. But it's just that you just, I don't know, it's just camaraderie when you all start bowling, that's all. We don't know a lot of personal stuff about each other, but everybody talks and camaraderie.
Coming to the Alley Cat is just not to bowl. It's the camaraderie. It's the friendship that you develop. We have a lot of joys here. We have some sadness when we lose some of our people. But it's like family here. And Tuesday is a big day in our lives to come here at Alley Cat. And it's a privilege to be able to bowl here. And we enjoy it ever so much.
Our educational program in Kingston brings us this next story. The tape art movement originated in Providence, Rhode Island in 1989 in the form of large-scale collaborative drawings created in public spaces. The original tape art crew continues to pioneer and evolve this medium, and over the last 28 years they have produced over 500 public works and thousands of smaller drawings in locations around the globe. They also work with groups of students to create collaborative murals, as they did with art students of Silver Lake Regional High School of Kingston.
Hi, I'm Michael Townsend.
And I'm Leah Smith.
And we are tape artists. We would actually fall into the category of professional tape artists, and what that means is that we draw with tape for a living. Myself personally, been drawing with tape for 30 years, and I've been working with different collaborators, a crew of tape artists, and using this medium, we've given ourselves the freedom to travel around the world and draw on buildings.
2 stories by like 100 feet or 200 feet. So these are like taking over the sides of sometimes skyscrapers, sometimes museums, community centers. And then the other half is when we come into schools like this and allow those communities to take over their own walls.
Yeah, so we love teaching the collaborative process of drawing. And so what you see here on this wall is just a good example of people using this medium for the first time. They're given instructions on how to use it technically, but the most important thing is that they are learning how to communicate ideas to each other and work towards an end goal that is not concrete from the beginning. So they have to respond in real time and really listen to each other and be aware of what's going on around them. And the results can be alarmingly good. So tape art started as an art medium in Providence, Rhode Island. It was a group of young artists that took advantage of the fact that Providence was a ghost town at that time. And after a while, people aren't anxious at all whether the work will stay up, is it going to damage anything? And once you've built that rapport, you have power. And you can start to look at any wall, and you can start to get permission to draw on any wall. And that has given us a great opportunity to travel, meet new people, and introduce people to art. And cities will bring you in if they want to do something for their public, for the citizens of their city. Big, bombastic, memorable, but temporary, we're a pretty good fit.
And a lot of teaching.
And a lot of teaching. So we really enjoy introducing this to new people. And I think over the years we've racked up.
You've taught a lot of people.
I've taught a lot of people. I think we calculated that I've worked with over 50,000 first-time tape artists. And so we've been very interested in how groups perform together and how individuals take to this medium. We got to see some genuinely good drawings here in this school. It's a good litmus test for the health of the school.
Last spring, we ran a teacher professional development workshop as part of a program called Art Allstate, which works with high school students every year to do large installation artworks. And that's how we met Hannah Close, who is one of the art teachers here. She's great. She felt really moved by that workshop and asked us if there was any way that we could be brought here to work with her students directly. And so, we sort of started to talk about what that would look like, whether she has the walls, and what are her students like. And she actually worked very hard and drummed up enough funding to have us here and work with 6 classes, 6 or 7 classes, 6 murals around the school, taking up big walls.
Yeah, she created best case scenarios for us as temporary teachers coming into an environment like this. The ideal scenario for us is that we have a 2-hour block to work with the students. And we realize in order for that to happen, the school has to make arrangements, adjustments,
schedule changes,
sacrifices, but they did it. And the results speak for themselves.
So what a workshop literally starts with us standing in front of a blank wall with a bag of tape and having the students stand opposite us. And usually we allow them to just ask a couple questions. We basically say, hey, you have a couple artists in front of you. What would you like to know?
It also gives us a chance to sort of understand the student more. Asking someone to ask you questions is an insight into their levels of curiosity. It's an insight into how comfortable they are with each other. Because you'll find that if they're more socially relaxed with each other, they'll ask questions more easily. Everyone's got a question to ask. For us, it's just a barometer for how they might collaborate together.
And after that, it sort of segues really quickly into trying to gain a theme. So before we do any sort of like technical stuff, to get an agreement from the group about a direction to start.
I think one of the reasons tape art does so well with new audiences is that within this medium is a hook for all types of learners, thinkers, and art approaches. And for some people, the idea of having power and ownership is a big deal. It's a huge catalyst to be able to look at a space and be like, wait, this is mine, I can draw on this. And just that alone will drive them to make good work.
Gather opened in April of last year, providing food and community to the town of Pembroke and beyond. In addition to their daily breakfast and lunches, Gather also hosts a Sunday night dinner, a concept that brings families together in a unique community-style dining experience. Take a look.
I'm Jamie. I'm Chef Shelton's wife. Shelton and Nick have been friends for some years now. When we met Nick, he was also a chef, and it was kind of like love at first sight, if you will. You know, his wife and I are great friends, and we both could understand each other because our husbands were chefs. We instantly had a connection. These guys have worked in several places throughout the city, and basically just enough was enough. They were ready to open up their own place about 2 years ago. And one of the things that they both expressed was, you know, we're tired of missing out on Mother's Day, and we're tired of missing out on, you know, Sunday events. They had mentioned that they really wanted just to be able to lay low with family on Sunday mornings, but they were definitely down to open Sunday nights and kind of bring back that family dinner feel of going to grandma's after church or just going to grandma's late Sunday afternoon to just kind of gather around the table.
I think that there's a lot of nostalgia to having Sunday family dinner. You know, people can very much remember, you know, we're going home, we're eating pot roast, we're eating meatloaf. You know, you're gonna have that time where you're actually gonna sit down as a family and talk. I think that that's very much a dying concept that we want to be able to reignite and provide. The thing that's really interesting about our family dinner is that it is a community dinner as well. It's family style, communal style dining. So when you get here, you may be sitting with, you know, strangers that you might not know. You might find out that you actually live right down the street from the person that you're dining next to. Your kids might be in the same class, and it just provides a whole nother level of relationships that can be built. What food can provide for you is just such an amazing thing. You know, people go out to restaurants when they're happy. People go out to restaurants when they're sad, when they're celebrating. You are such an essential part of what everybody's life is, and it's great to have a restaurant and to be a part of that story for them and what we're doing with food and what we're providing for them with what we're nourishing them, not only for, you know, for their body, but for their mental status as well.
So tonight is one of our most popular menus. We kick off with honey biscuits, cornbread, and then we go right into fried chicken, collard greens, candied yams, macaroni and cheese, and we finish the night with banana pudding.
A lot of it is based off of just things that we feel are classics as far as having these family dinners. Everything is served in vintage Pyrex dishes, and so it's things that we need to be able to take in consideration that can be served family style. So things that we've done in the past are bolognese, build your own fajita night, meatloaf, we do a pork chop night. We try and make it as family fun as possible, kids encouraged, and really getting back to that family time that you can be able to, you know, have with other people at your table. You know, we just want to be able to have the guests come in and just have a great experience, say hi to me, and say hi to Chef. He'll be more than happy to come out and tell you some terrible joke that I'm sure that he'll be more than happy to get to you. But, you know, just feel like you're at home while you're here at Gather.
Students at Pembroke High School learned a thing or two at the Credit for Life Fair last month. The fair is an exercise in financial literacy. PCN's Walter Cicchetti followed a student around as she experienced the fair.
Sarah L'Italian is a senior at Pembroke High School. Today is the Credit for Life Fair, a program sponsored by Rockland Trust Bank to help seniors in high school gain financial literacy.
The seniors are given a monthly income to spend at the fair to go around and make choices like transportation, housing, cell phone bills, things that happen that are out of their control. And then they take all these numbers and they try to balance what they have for money coming in and money they have going out, and we want to make sure they don't end up in the negative.
L'Italian and some of the other students at the fair took a literacy class last semester. These students may now be stronger when it comes to this financial challenge.
So my net monthly income is $3,534. I chose Market Basket for groceries, so that's $125 a month. And then fitness at Planet Fitness, and that's $10 a month. And then we had to roll the die to get an unexpected health cost. So I had to replace my glasses that I broke, and that was $125.
She says looking at all the numbers really puts things into perspective.
It helps us realize how much little things will add up, like the Xbox Live, or the AirPods, or the best friend's wedding, they might not all be necessary. Well, the best friend's wedding maybe.
Entertainment was a popular stop for many on the trip around the gym.
So I did the iPhone for $38 a month. We had to do a data plan for $40 a month. And then we had to choose between cable, internet, Spotify, or Netflix. I did 3 of them, so that was $111. So it really shows how much entertainment is really going to cost.
Tough decisions had to be made when it came to housing and retirement savings.
I personally can't decide if I'm going to do a studio or if I'm just going to stay with my parents. Studio would be $750. Not sure if I can afford that. If I stay at home, I won't get that like real world feeling where I learn to like live with roommates and all that. I would be able to save, but that wouldn't help me for my future. So what we decided on was a studio, putting away the largest amount for retirement, so that's good. That's really interesting to look at because when you're this age, you don't think about how much you're going to be putting away for retirement because it's like 40 years from now.
Now it's time to add it all up.
After crunching all my numbers, and I subtracted all my cash expenses, and then I subtracted my credit card payment, and I have $126 left. I'm still positive, but that's kind of sad. So I thought I was being smart with my payments, but maybe not.
L'Italian says it adds up quickly.
Like, you think that living after college would be easy, you have a job, you're doing what you like, you should be able to support yourself, but it's really a lot more difficult than that. And you always forget about like the little costs, like a phone or Netflix. Like, they seem little, but they all contribute a lot, and like deciding whether you're going to put it on a credit card or savings is a really hard decision. So, and like on top of that, your student loans, your rent, it's all hard. Life is hard.
Reporting in Pembroke for PACTV Community News, I'm Walter Cicchetti.
The Mosaic project at Duxbury's Art Complex Museum is moving through its phase 1 at a steady rate. This month, they held an open house event and invited people to view the project and contribute to it with a meaningful stone from their lives. They also learned about herring and their significance in history, as well as today. PCN stopped in for an update on this project.
We're at the Art Complex Museum here in Duxbury today, and we are at phase 1 of the mosaic project, and that means all the little pieces of glass and clay have been attached to the mesh, which will then be attached to panels and then finally attached to an outside wall at the museum. And we've asked people to bring rocks that are special to them, and we're documenting where they're from and who gave them. So when the rocks are installed in the mosaic, it'll be a fun opportunity to come back and find your rock.
And actually the headwaters of the South River stem from Round Pond here in Duxbury.
Today we have a special presentation from the North and South River Watershed Association. Samantha Woods, the executive director, came and is talking about why we need to remove a lot of the dams and help the fish return to their natural migration and life cycles. And it's also part of our mosaic project, so it's all tied in. And the herring in the mosaic is because we wanted it to be part of the Plymouth 400, and we know how important the herring were to the early settlers, and how it was a collaboration between the native people and the settlers. And the native people taught the early settlers, how to use them as fertilizer and food. And the fact that the wall is on a sloped hill really fits the whole idea of how hard these fish have to work to get upstream. We're very excited to see people that are really interested in it, not only the art, but the science, and the two are very much connected. Well, in about 1.5 years, we're going to be unveiling the wall, and we hope that the people that came today, and there's still time to bring rocks in the future, in the next few months, that they can come back and they can see that they were part of it, and that their rock will be forever in the museum's permanent collection.
Today we have on set Julie Brewster, who owns Event Planners of Plymouth. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here today.
Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
How long have you been in the business of event planning?
So this will be going into my 10th season.
Now, have you noticed with being in the business for 10 years, the oncoming of Pinterest? Has that changed some things a bit?
Yes, Pinterest has been huge. Brides love to present their Pinterest boards to their planners and say, these are the things that I would like. I would like this and that, and I would, sometimes it's a little overwhelming, the amount of things that they want, so that could be the negative part of Pinterest. But just giving people some basic ideas of things outside the box or a way to ignite their passions in a pretty way, I feel like it's perfect for that.
What have you seen for trends in the upcoming season, so spring and summer? What are some things that you've seen?
So definitely we're going into spring, summer rustic season. I feel like even though it comes to be out in the fall as well, I see a lot of people with the wooden farm tables. They really like to have their weddings outside, gardens, florals. You get the wooden farm tables. I've seen a lot of like greenery and candles. Most people tend to want the same exact thing because that's what's trending on Pinterest and that's what they're seeing. So everybody has the same idea. They want the eucalyptus swag and they want some candles and twinkly lights. It's really pretty.
Have you seen that there's less assigned seating as compared to like community style seating?
Oh, that's a good question. A lot of people tend to do that at the ceremony now. I see a lot of signs that say pick a seat, not a side, which is probably from Pinterest as well. But as far as seating for dinner, there still happens to be seating. Most people really tend to like a plated dinner. So you're sitting down. One thing that's always suggested to brides is you should do a seating chart, because what if there's 6 people that really aren't close to others and then they end up sitting down towards the end? You really don't want people to feel unwelcome, like they have no place to go. So I find that having people do seating charts tends to be a little bit better. In the long run, it's a little more stressful getting it together and it takes more time, but it is well worth it in the end.
So what are some tips you have? So a couple just gets engaged. What is the first thing they need to do?
You absolutely need to find your venue. So we're going into 2020 and numbers are huge. So let's say you had a wedding in 2010 on August 9th, 8, 9, 10, huge wedding day. We're going into 2020, so there's going to be celebrations everywhere, especially in Plymouth, celebrating the 400th anniversary. So you have a number. You need to get your venue. You need to get it now. You need to get it yesterday, because 2020 is going to fill up. And if you have a lot of people, a lot of guests, you definitely want to get it sooner than later.
I'm sure 11/11/11 was a huge date, because there's no other date like that.
Yes, absolutely. And I mentioned the 8, 9, 10 because it fell on a Saturday.
Oh, right.
So I don't think the 11/11/11 fell on a Saturday. So I think it was midweek, but I do know that I did have something on that day as well.
What's the most popular day you think? I've noticed like a lot of Sunday weddings now, which is interesting.
Yeah, Sundays tend to be a slight discount, which is why people tend to do that. So they like it, but if it's on a Sunday, I find that guests tend to not stay over. So people that are doing, let's say, a destination wedding, they're coming to a South Shore on the town, they like to stay for the whole weekend. So a Saturday wedding is more beneficial, because then everybody can have a brunch the next day or do something fun with your guests. And if you have it on a Sunday, it's usually because you want a discount. But if it's a Monday holiday, you're not going to get the discount anyways. So
you mentioned the South Shore. Why do you think people come to the South Shore to have their wedding? What is it about like our geography that makes it kind of an aesthetic place to have a wedding?
I mean, the beach, absolutely. The coastline. We have ocean bluffs from here all the way down to Provincetown. A lot of people enjoy having outside tented weddings where they have ocean views. Again, they're seeing it in social media, these beautiful brides with the ocean backdrop. It's picturesque and people love it. So they just want that. And you can't just have that anywhere. You're not going to have it in the middle of the United States, clearly. You're right here on the coastline. It's beautiful. Nautical themes are trending and they're big. And I feel like that's something that really hasn't slowed down over the years, that people enjoy having, like some sand dollars and anchors. That whole theme is huge.
But there's also a problem with that, right? Because of the climate, you never know what you're going to get with New England. What are some plan Bs that you have for couples?
Absolutely. If people are having an outdoor wedding, plan B is to always say, is it okay if you get married underneath the tent? Because obviously if you're under the tent and it's raining, it's fine. So a lot of people that do the outside tented weddings kind of shy away from spring, because you never know what you're going to get as far as all the rain is concerned. So I do feel like the tented weddings happen towards the end of the year in in August, when the weather is warmer and more consistent as being less rainy. So therefore, they're not even going to need a rain plan, although anything outside should definitely have a rain plan backup in case something happens.
In addition to weather, what other kind of problems can you run into the day of?
The day, well, I've definitely heard all kinds of stories. Problems are, the way that fabric is made these days is definitely not how our mothers' had it made. A lot of people have issues with their dresses. A lot of dresses are breaking or buttons snapping because when people try clothing on for their wedding, they're not dancing in it, they're not in it for 5 hours. They've just put it on, they stood up on something, they got it hemmed, but then when they're actually moving and working in it, things happen all the time. Pants get ripped, hems come undone, buttons pop out, and it happens all the time. So people need to have a backup plan for that. Like, let's have some safety pins. Everybody does a little bathroom basket. Make sure you're putting something in there
Like an
for your
emergency
own.
kit.
Absolutely, yes.
What kind of
need
things would
that.
you recommend for an emergency kit? Like hairspray, that kind of stuff?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Nail polish is great for all kinds of things. Super glue, believe it or not, is a very, very good one. A lot of times bouquets, something pops out and things happen. I've had people before have little pictures maybe of a deceased loved one and they would have it in and that would pop off. So super glue's been handy. A lot of people like that in their kits for sure. Mints are huge because people tend to forget that right before they're walking down the aisle, you don't want to chew gum, but maybe you felt like you needed that mint before the first kiss. So you definitely want to throw some in there.
I definitely have put on eyelashes on some of my friends on their weddings.
Oh, yeah.
They always tend to fall off, the tears and
Not
everything.
with the super glue though, please. Don't do super glue. All right, so we're going to get some eyelash glue, some super glue, and then we're throwing some mints. Definitely not. Definitely. The red wine stain remover is pretty awesome too. Have you ever seen that?
No, I've never seen that
So
before.
it's weird because if you get red wine on anything and you're picturing a wedding gown, you spray it, it turns green, but then the minute you wash it with water, the green goes away. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a great item to have.
So we've heard of the term bridezilla. Is there any tips you have so you don't become a bridezilla? Any ways you can kind of de-stress before your wedding?
Yes, I think that every bridezilla should decide what it is that's important to them, okay? So maybe you're becoming a bridezilla because you've bought all these items and you want them displayed on your table a certain way. So you just need, if you are getting married, to give the reins to somebody else. So that's where it's important to maybe have a planner, because a lot of times if they have a best friend, well, she's trying to do this, that, and the other thing, and then things can get stressful. But if they have somebody else helping them, they can get mad at that person. It's not family. They don't have to feel bad. They can be a little bossy because they're paying them, and that's okay. Brides tend to de-stress when they can throw everything that's in their brain to somebody else, knowing that that other person is going to do it exactly how they would like them to. So I feel that most brides, once they pass it on and they feel confident someone else can do that job, then they can relax on their wedding day.
And if you don't have a planner, have a supportive team, right? Like
Yes.
just a friends and family that you know will be in your corner and will support your decisions.
Yes, absolutely. And the more that they tell friends or family what they want, the better it would become, because they'll say, you know, let's say she had her best friend do something for her. Her best friend would say, oh, well, I know Susie really wants me to set it up like this and this. It's important to her. Every bride has something different that's important to them, whether it be the food, the music, the way the decor is set up. And it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong answer, and that's what people need to know. It is really how you would like to have your party with your friends and family while you're getting married to the person that you love.
What are some of the most popular seasons, you think? I know summer and spring used to be very popular. Is that changing?
I definitely think it's changing and gearing more towards fall. Like we were talking about the weather before. The fall tends to definitely be less rainy, and people are really liking that rustic feel like we were talking about. So rustic almost goes with the fall a little bit more. A lot of people enjoy outside things and then having a campfire after. I see a lot of favors these days being little s'mores packets.
I love it.
Super cute. So everybody grabs it, and then either they're going home or they're hanging out later, and then you already have this little kit of s'mores. And it does double duty, because a lot of times I tell clients that it's really nice if you can find a way to save money by having something do double duty. So for example, you're giving s'mores because you're having a fire, but it is your favor. So you've kind of combined those two things into one purchase.
That's excellent. Well, thank you so much for being in the studio today. We really enjoyed you coming in.
Thank
and
you. It
giving
was
us some
great.
tips.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Information and links to stories can be found on our website at pactv.org. PCN is also on Facebook and Twitter, so be sure to follow us there. We are also on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe to PCN channel. We are back May 9th with more local stories. Have a great week.